of missing in those devastating floods as lawmakers get to work on measures they hope will save lives. And the WNBA's biggest stars make a very public statement to the league. First, the flash flooding threat for communities across the country. Bystanders and first responders rescuing motorists trapped by rapidly rising waters. What's in store for tonight and the look ahead as extreme heat grips the heartland and south? Our weather team times it all out. A close call between a Delta regional passenger jet and a B-52 bomber. The B-52 with its location off, the Delta pilot maneuvering at the last minute to avoid colliding with the bomber, later apologizing to passengers. What we're learning now. And the growing bipartisan calls for the release of all government files on convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein as the controversy intensifies, and why President Trump is telling lawmakers to stay in town for their August vacation. The search ends for a missing 9-year-old girl in a popular upstate New York tourist area. The details just coming in. Israel expands its evacuation orders in the Gaza Strip amid more violence as dozens more Palestinians are killed while trying to reach food aid centers. A threat for Washington State's salmon population after a fuel tanker crash and massive spill. The WNBA's biggest names make a statement during the All-Star weekend amid contentious contract negotiations, what the league is saying, and the record-breaking game that included the new 4-point shot. And America Strong tonight, the team of volunteers that work tirelessly to save the summer for some very special campers.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on this Sunday. I'm Lindsay Davis. As we come on the air tonight, more than 36 million Americans are under the threat of severe storms for parts of the Midwest and Northeast. This passenger and driver were trapped in a car and had to be rescued after heavy rain triggered flash flooding in parts of the Washington, D.C. metro area overnight. The downpour made some roads nearly impassable while others were completely shut down. In the heartland, residents of Ames, Iowa woke up to these sirens warning of a possible tornado and heavy rain battering parts of central Indiana. We're also tracking dangerous heat for much of the heartland and south this week. Our weather team is standing by with the forecast, but first, Morgan Norwood leads us off.
Tonight, millions in the Northeast and Midwest bracing for another round of dangerous storms after a flash flood emergency shut down parts of the Washington, D.C. metro area Saturday.
Get out the car! We came the doors and locked.
Watch as bystanders race to help people trapped inside this SUV in Montgomery County, Maryland, helping the passenger out of the backseat window, quickly carrying her to safety. First responders arriving moments later, the fire engine's wake causing the vehicle to bob in the water. Rescuers carefully guiding the driver out of the vehicle and to dry land. As the rain kept falling, meteorologists urging families to get to higher ground.
So this is something that you do need to take very seriously if you are in this area.
Officials say they made dozens of water rescues in the area.
We had a heck of a storm roll through Montgomery County, particularly down county area. In fact, we believe that water rose about 10 feet in 30 minutes at one point in time.
In the Midwest this weekend, tornado sirens sounding in Ames, Iowa. And outside Chicago, relentless rain soaking Highland, Indiana. And Lindsay, more rounds of heavy rain are now targeting the Midwest. The ground in parts of that region already saturated, increasing the risk for dangerous flash flooding tonight. Lindsay?
Last thing those areas need, Morgan, thank you. Let's get right to meteorologist Danny Beckstrom from our New York station, WABC. Good evening, Danny. Time this all out for us.
The AI revolution is here. And I built a software that allows you to build YouTube and Google ad audiences.
Lindsay, a new round of dangerous weather, bringing the threat for severe thunderstorms, but also the continued risk for flash flooding tonight. Looking at the radar, a severe thunderstorm watch for much of New England, including Boston tonight, with damaging wind gusts being the primary concern. But another big concern tonight, flash flooding as rounds of heavy rain continue to fall on already saturated ground. Flood watch in effect from Missouri to West Virginia through at least tomorrow morning, with rain impacting the morning rush from St. Louis to Louisville. The other big story for the work week, dangerous heat in the heartland and south. heat alerts from Kansas to the Carolinas, with heat index values back in the triple digits on Monday. And the extreme heat not only holds for much of the coming week, it also spreads north. In Chicago, we're looking at highs in the upper 90s by Wednesday. Lindsay?
Danny, thank you. Now to another close call in the skies. A Delta regional pilot making an aggressive maneuver to avoid a midair collision with a B-52 bomber. Let's bring in ABC's Mola Lenghi at Dulles International Airport tonight. Mola, what are you learning about this incident?
Well, Lindsay, as you said, an incredibly scary moment in the air, the pilot having to make what he described as an aggressive maneuver in order to avoid that mid-air collision. Now, as this Delta flight approached its landing at Minot, North Dakota Airport, a B-52 bomber unexpectedly entered the flight path, according to the pilot. Now, we should note that Minot is home to an Air Force base near the commercial airport, but the pilot later telling his passengers that he was never given any sort of warning by air traffic controllers about the B-52's location. Once on the ground, the pilot apologizing to passengers about the close call, essentially telling them, nobody told us we had company up here, and that, quote, this is not normal. Now, there were no reported injuries, fortunately, but of course, we're only 6 months removed from that deadly mid-air collision at Reagan National Airport, just outside of Washington, D.C., where 67 people were killed. As you can imagine, Lindsay, some people still anxious.
Still on the hearts and minds of many. Mola, thank you. Now to politics. House Republicans joining Democrats for a resolution to release all the government files on Jeffrey Epstein. While it's largely a symbolic gesture, it comes as President Trump has tried but mostly failed to dismiss his supporters' fervent interest in the case and what it represents. ABC senior White House correspondent Selena Wang has more.
Tonight, growing bipartisan pressure on the Trump administration to release all of the government's files on convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. A group of House Republicans joining Democrats, pushing for a vote to compel the release. The resolution would carry no legal weight, but underscores the outrage some lawmakers are feeling from their own base. Epstein died by suicide in jail in 2019, shortly after being charged with sex trafficking and sexual abuse of underage girls. Many of Trump's allies, including his FBI director Kash Patel and his deputy Dan Bongino, fueled Epstein conspiracies for years. Now many Republicans are demanding answers.
I don't think we're ever going to get to the bottom of anything. This town doesn't give up its secrets very easy.
Earlier this year, Attorney General Pam Bondi claimed to have Epstein's so-called client list. But then weeks ago, the Justice Department and FBI issued a memo stating the case is closed, that a systematic review revealed no incriminating client list and no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals. The backlash from some of Trump's base was intense. The president responded by lashing out at some of his own supporters.
They're stupid people.
Was I a little ticked off he said that stuff? Sure I was.
Trump now ordering the Justice Department to request the release of grand jury transcripts related to Epstein. Some lawmakers say that doesn't go far enough.
To me, as a former prosecutor, there are times when you release things for the good of the country. This is one of those times.
Releasing grand jury records could take time, requiring a federal judge's approval. And legal experts say the transcripts may not reveal any new details and likely cover only a small fraction of the overall testimony and evidence gathered. Alan Dershowitz, Epstein's former lawyer, says Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's convicted co-conspirator, currently serving a 20-year prison sentence, should testify before Congress.
She is the Rosetta Stone. She knows everything.
And Lindsay, as Congress continues to grapple with the Epstein controversy, President Trump is now asking Senate Majority Leader John Thune to cancel the Senate summer recess to push through his nominees, including the highly controversial appointment of one of his former personal attorneys to a lifetime federal judgeship. Lindsay?
And Selena, in other news out of Washington, tell us about President Trump's demand that the Washington Commanders change the team name.
That's right, Lindsay. President Trump says he won't make a deal for the football team stadium to be built if they don't change their name back to the Washington Redskins, calling the name change ridiculous. The team dropped the name Redskins in 2020 after decades of criticism from Native American groups who called it racist and derogatory. Lindsay?
Selena, thank you. The number of people still missing after that catastrophic flooding in Kerr County, Texas, has been revised from nearly 100 to 3. At least 135 people died in the historic floods. Let's bring in ABC's Melissa Don. Melissa, we know there's a special legislative session tomorrow. What's on the agenda?
Yes, Lindsay. So we have learned that number of missing people has dropped dramatically. And what we're expecting to hear from that special session is critical, right? Because from hard-hit county of Kerr County, that is where the number of people believed to be missing has dropped from nearly 100 to 3. That's a major difference. Overall in Texas, 7 people are still reported missing from these historic floods. And at least 135 people, including those children, have died from this 4th of July weekend tragedy. Now, many Texans are calling into question the response and lack of emergency warnings from local and federal officials. So tomorrow, Texas Governor Greg Abbott is holding that special session to discuss flood warning systems, communications, and infrastructure in the region, as well as those critical relief funds that they desperately need for those devastated areas. Of course, all of this as more than 1,000 search and recovery crews remain on the ground. Lindsay.
Melissa, thank you. Next tonight, the urgent search for a missing 9-year-old ends in tragedy. Police discovered her body in upstate New York. The new details coming in tonight and why police are now saying she may not have been abducted at all. Here's ABC's Rena Roy.
Tonight, a tragic end to the search for a 9-year-old girl. Investigators finding her body in upstate New York. Melina Fradilin was first reported missing by her father, Luciano Fradilin, Saturday night just before 10 p.m. in Lake George, New York, a popular summer destination in the Adirondacks. Both are residents of Canada. Police issuing an Amber Alert asking the public for help.
The 9-year-old daughter was possibly abducted in a white van, went south on the interstate.
But in a bizarre twist, authorities are now saying there's no indication of an abduction. Police saying as the case progressed, law enforcement identified inconsistencies in the father's account of events and the timeline he provided. After a multi-agency search that included New York State Police, canine and aviation units, Melina was located deceased in the town of Ticonderoga.
Now, police say the investigation is ongoing, but that there is no threat to the public. Lindsay.
Rena, thank you. Overseas now to Israel, issuing new evacuation orders in Gaza. Dozens of Palestinians were killed by Israeli fire as they waited for food in northern Gaza. But the IDF maintains there was an imminent threat. And we want to warn you, some of these images are graphic. Here's ABC's Patrick Reevell.
Hi, I'm Ro from Cybersleuth, and I'm here to help you walk you through which one's better, opt or delete me, and what you can do to protect yourself.
Tonight, hospitals flooded with dozens of Palestinians after Israeli troops opened fire near a crowd trying to collect food. Nearly 70 killed and more than 150 wounded, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. The bloodshed happening as thousands were desperately seeking flour in northern Gaza. This man says, "We raised our hands like this, signaling we were peaceful. Then they started firing at us." The IDF questioning the casualty figures, saying they fired to remove a, quote, immediate threat. With no end to the war in sight, most days now dozens of Palestinians are reported killed as they try to get food. Israel tonight saying it will now expand its ground operation into a new area of central Gaza, ordering tens of thousands to move again. People today praying with the Patriarch of Jerusalem, Cardinal Pizzaballa, leading Sunday Mass in Gaza's only Catholic church. The Cardinal granted a rare visit after Israeli tank fire hit the church earlier this week. The UN's World Food Programme is warning tonight that 90,000 women and children are now in urgent need of treatment for malnutrition, once again calling on Israel to let in more aid. Lindsay.
Patrick, thank you. Next tonight, mourning and grief in Vietnam after a deadly tour boat accident. Dozens are dead after the boat capsized during stormy weather. The search for the missing and what a survivor is saying tonight about the harrowing ordeal. Here's ABC's Britt Clennett.
Tonight, at least 35 people are dead and 4 others still missing after this tourist boat capsized in Vietnam. The boat, named Wonder Sea, was carrying 48 passengers and 5 crew members for a 3-hour excursion in Ha Long Bay, a popular tourist destination, when a sudden thunderstorm hit, bringing strong winds and heavy rain, causing the boat to overturn. Rescuers in the water bringing individuals to safety. A boy seen here swimming to a boat. AP reports of a teenage boy miraculously rescued after being stuck in the boat's hull for 4 hours. A survivor speaking from a hospital bed, lucky to be alive, describing his struggle for air as he swam out to safety, eventually clinging to the boat until help arrived. The boat now towed to a shipyard for investigation. Lindsay, rescue divers are battling limited visibility tonight in the search for survivors just hours before a tropical storm is expected to hit the region. Lindsay.
Britt, thank you. Back here in the U.S. to the WNBA All-Star Weekend, players are pushing for better pay as the league soars to new heights, delivering their message in a rather unique way during the warm-up. ABC's Christian Cordero joins us from Indianapolis with more. Hi, Christian.
Lindsay, WNBA players are sending a very frank message to the league during a very pivotal time. The All-Stars warming up in these T-shirts last night that read, "Pay us what you owe us." The game later drawing chants from fans echoing, "Pay them." This comes amid negotiations for a new collective bargaining agreement, plus at a time when the league is exploding at record pace between attendance, merch sales, and TV deals. And the expansion is expected to continue with 5 new teams entering the WNBA in as many years. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert describes the CBA meeting so far as candid and constructive, calling the overall growth a transformational investment in the future of women's sports. That was on full display here in Indianapolis. A sold-out crowd of 17,000 packed the arena for last night's game, a history-making game. The 151-131 score, a new WNBA All-Star record. Lindsay, the WNBA regular season picks back up in 2 days. Lindsay?
Lots of enthusiasm there. Christian, thank you. There's still much more ahead on World News Tonight this Sunday. Those popular lettuce wraps are back, but with a catch, the shortage they created for this fast food giant. And why Washington State's governor is calling this accident devastating for a sensitive ecosystem.
If you're getting ready to go on Medicare, here are 5 mistakes that you want to avoid. And trust me, you do not want to miss mistake number 5.
Next tonight, an urgent investigation is underway in the Houston area. Authorities are trying to determine if the suspect in this surveillance video may have had similar encounters with other women. They say that he held the woman in the video in his home for nearly a week without food and water. Authorities arrested the suspect after a tip from a neighbor. Crews in Washington State are working to contain a fuel spill in the environmentally sensitive Olympic Peninsula. Authorities say thousands of gallons of gasoline and diesel were leaked when a tanker truck crashed on Friday. The fuel seeped into a tributary of a river that was recently restored for salmon runs. The state's governor is calling the accident devastating. When we come back, the new British Open champ and his frank comments about the tour. To the index now, McDonald's popular snack wraps are back, but there's so much of a hit that they caused a lettuce shortage for the fast food giant. According to the Wall Street Journal, McDonald's told some franchises to hold off on adding shredded lettuce to other sandwiches in order to preserve the supply. The company says the shortages have now been resolved. Golfer Scottie Scheffler is celebrating tonight. The world #1 dominated the British Open. Fellow golfer Rory McIlroy called Scheffler's win inevitable after Scheffler built a 4-stroke lead going into the final round. But ahead of the tournament, the American said celebrating wins is not fulfilling because he says the nature of the sport means that he simply has to move on to the next competition. When we come back, in the aftermath of the deadly Texas floods, the special volunteers who came together to rebuild a beloved camp. Finally tonight, America Strong. When the Texas floods nearly destroyed a beloved camp, an army of volunteers got to work.
2 weeks ago, this was a disaster zone. Floodwaters from the Guadalupe River swallowed everything in their path, including the grounds of this beloved summer camp in Central Texas for children with special needs. Fortunately, at the time, Camp was in between sessions when the storm hit, but it left behind a trail of destruction and uncertainty. Camp directors were concerned there was too much damage to reopen this season. They reached out to fellow Texan Cord Shiflett, who has a well-known history for helping communities when disaster strikes. He then put out a call on Facebook for help. An army of volunteers heeded that call, providing money, manpower, and machines. In just 4 days, more than 1,000 volunteers from across the country cleaned, repaired, and restored what the floodwaters tried to erase.
So many wonderful people came. Someone had driven down from Minnesota. We had a guy drive his team of people in from Georgia.
After all, many regard this place as more than a camp, but a lifeline. And today, Camp welcomed 115 new campers, all with special needs, many experiencing camp for the very first time. Tonight, proof that when a community comes together, even floodwater cannot drown hope. A remarkable recovery and a summer these campers will never forget.
Thank you. Thank
you. All the more meaningful. Thanks so much for watching. David Muir right back here tomorrow night. I'm Lindsay Davis in New York. I'll see you tomorrow morning on Good Morning America. Until then, have a great night.